my beautiful witches, blessed be. This is WhiteRaven over here. Today's Monday, so happy Magic Monday to all of you guys. I have a conversation with you today, and it's something that I promise you guys, and it's something that you guys have been asking me a lot. And I think it's very fair that we talk about it because I talk about it all the time and I mention it all the time. And the video today is going to be all about ancestors. And this is why I did my video with a different background, because I want this to be a conversation, because I want to make your life easier. We complicate sometimes ourselves so much when especially when we start doing magic, and it's very understandable because I did it too. We are so afraid of doing things wrong when we start our magical path. I'm here for you today to talk about ancestors. And of course, this is going to be from my perspective, based on my own experience and on the things that I have lived throughout my magical path. If you're new in this channel and this is something that interests you, stick around. I am here to teach you magic, what it is to be a witch from my perspective. I've been practicing witchcraft since 2004. And I want to be here for you, what I wish I had when I started, because I felt really lonely when I started this path and I had so many questions and I had nobody to go to. So stick around. I'll be so happy to have you in my little coven. So I gotta tell you, witches, there are two books out there that are interesting and they talk about ancestors. Honoring Your Ancestors is one of them. This one is by Mallorie Vaudoise. I probably completely butcher her name. And this is a guide to ancestral veneration. It's very good. It's very interesting, particularly the part about ancestral traumas. It was a really good chapter. It's a great listen in Audible. So if you have the opportunity to buy this book in Audible, it's really, really, really good. I honestly suggest for you to get it. It's something that may give you some good ideas. She has some rituals in here. It's a good book. So I recommend it. Another one is this one, Badass Ancestors by Patti Wigington. I love Patti Wigington. I think she's a great writer. I like how she writes. I feel like she's very casual. Whenever she writes, I never get bored with her stuff. This book is very different from Honoring Your Ancestors. Very different approach. They're both interesting. If you want to get into Honoring Your Ancestors and you want to know more about ancestors, these are two good references books that you should have at home to check and maybe get some ideas from those books. My friend Sancista Brujo Luis, somebody that I talk about a lot over here, he has a very interesting video from his perspective on what ancestors are. I'm going to link that video in the description of the video, so you have to go into the description of this video in order to get the link for that video. Please make sure you look in there. Ancestors, let's get into it. So according to science, humans have been evolving for the past 400,000 years, maybe more, maybe less, but around 400,000 years. So that means that you and me, witches, and everybody has everything in their ancestry line. So that means you have good people, bad people, evil people, great people, holy people, damn people. You have everything in your bloodline. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, but this is how I want to open this conversation. So let's start with the definition of ancestors. Let's go over here. What is the definition of ancestor?
Here's the definition of ancestor. A person, typically one more remote than a grandparent, from whom one is descended.
Do you get that, witches? So ancestor is a person, typically one more remote than a grandparent from who one is descended. And that is by the Oxford Dictionary, and you heard it here with me from Mighty Google. So what does that mean? That an ancestor, according to the dictionary, is somebody that is older than your great-grandparent. Somebody that lived before your great-grandparents. The way I look at my ancestors and whoever I consider my ancestors are people that died before I was born, that relate to my direct bloodline. My grandparents were alive when I was born, but my great-grandparents were not. Right now, in my little altar, I not only honor my dead, and we're going to talk about who is my dead, but I also honor my ancestors. The opinion on who is an ancestor varies depending who you talk to. So for me, my ancestors ancestors are people that die way before I was born. So one of the questions that I get asked the most in my emails is, WhiteRaven, I've been adopted. Who are my ancestors? And that is a very good question, because the beauty of the life that we're living right now, which is that you can find your bloodline rather easy. We're so lucky, and I understand a lot of people don't want to do this, but we're so lucky that we have something that is called 23andMe, Ancestry.com. And yes, I know there's a lot of stuff and a lot of things that they say about these two platforms. But the point is that if you want to know what your blood is, you can do a DNA test and you will know. But if you are adopted, the beauty of Ancestry is that if you feel like honoring the bloodline of the people that have adopted you, that is something that you can 100% do, because ancestors will adopt you. The same way your parents adopt you, ancestor will adopt you. So you can perfectly honor the bloodline of the people that adopted you. Another question that I get asked very, very often. WhiteRaven, my great-great-great-grandfather was an evil man. Oh, WhiteRaven, I have some ancestors that were very problematic people. Which is, you do not have to honor any ancestors that you don't feel comfortable honoring. But remember one thing, the state in which your bad problematic ancestor was in this life is not necessarily the state that they are in right now. Because once we die, we are always evolving. I want you to take that into consideration, but again, you do not have to work with any ancestor that does not make you feel comfortable. The most important thing is, which is that if you do not want to work with a specific ancestor, you don't have to. But also understand that all of us, which is all of us in our blood, is a mix of good people and bad people. And I'm going to take myself as an example. I'm going to open my 23andMe. I'm right here in my 23andMe, and I'm going to check my ancestry report. And this is what I have. I have Spanish and Portuguese, about 62% of my blood, right? I also have some Italian, Sardinian, European. I even have Jewish in my blood. And then I have native Taino, 13.5%. And I also have my African blood. I have 6.6% African blood. I have Nigeria, I have Senegavi, I have Guinean, I have Sierra Leone. I have the conquistadores bloods in my veins, and I also have the people that has been conquered and killed. I have the slaves in my blood, and I have the slave owners in my blood. So I have to reconcile that. And that is a dilemma that I have. So how do I do that? Well, which is we have to heal all of our ancestry trauma. And the way we heal this is by doing better in our life, by working against the things that our ancestors were at one point, right? We are going to fight racism. We're going to fight for the right for other people. We are going to honor the people that was killed by the conquistadores, for example. So you have to make sure that when you're living your life, you also do better for your own blood, because you want to heal the trauma of your ancestry. Again, which is we have good people and bad people in all of our ancestors. You can also focus just in your lineage. What does your race represent? Take the positive out of each race. What works good for you? What from your own lineage is elevating you? What from your own lineage make you a better person? What from your own lineage benefit your spiritual life, your spiritual journey, bless your whole existence? It is not always bad, but we all have bad stuff in our lineage, which is we all going to have bad ancestors, and you know some of them. But it's impossible for you to go 400,000 years back and see which ones were good and which ones were bad. And you know what, witches? Maybe within your blood you have the blood of witches, and you also have the blood of the executioner. You're going to have both blood. It's impossible. All of us are in the same boat. Does that mean you don't honor your ancestors? No, witches. You're going to take what elevates you from the life of everybody that was here before you. You are here because that people existed. Take what elevates you. Takes what rejoice and add beauty and value into your spiritual life and into your human life. And strive every day to make things better. Live good so you can die good. I hope I get to answer that question a little bit because I know it's something that it messes up with people's heads. We have survived wars, genocide, and so many, probably even worse things that we can't even imagine. So you know what? Strive for what's best and do what you gotta do, witches. So what kind of ancestors are out there? Now, I'm going to tell you this. A lot of people is going to think that no, WhiteRaven, those are not ancestors. Take it or leave it. For me, my ancestors are my family, my bloodline, people that came before me, and I'm here because they existed. So to me, that's my ancestors. But at least Miss Marjorie V, and I'm not going to say her last name because I really am going to butcher that last name again, mentioned in her book over here that you can have different type of ancestors. Like number one, you can have adoptive ancestors. And when I say adoptive ancestors, we're talking about the ancestry of the people that adopt you. If you feel very related to them, by all means, those are the ancestors that you are going to use. Why not? Miss Marjorie V also mentions in her book that there could be partnership ancestors. And that means the ancestors of your husband, for example. You can totally adopt his line of ancestors. I gotta tell you this, I feel very called upon some of my husband's family that are deceased. I don't know why, because I never met them. But for whatever reason, I feel very pulled by his ancestry. And I love it. And I honor them as well. Another type of ancestors that Marjorie V speaks of in this book is of affinity ancestors. So what are affinity ancestors? I found that to be so very interesting because affinity ancestors are going to be people that is deceased, obviously, that maybe had the same vocations that you have. Let's say you are an artist and you love painting and you feel very attached to Picasso. That is an affinity ancestor. There's figures. For example, I absolutely love myself Abraham Lincoln, and he's part of my spiritual world. I really love him. I really look up to him, and I read so much about him. I honor him. I remember his birthday. I don't know why, but he's maybe an affinity ancestor to me. So that's another type of ancestor that you may have. And again, maybe some people will say, no, WhiteRaven, you're wrong. Those are not ancestors. Ancestor has to be blood. Listen, take it or leave it. This is my opinion. I'm just sharing what this book is saying. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It's a perspective that I never saw and I never realized until I saw it in this book, and it made perfect sense to me, and I really think I'm going to adopt it. It's up to you if you want to see them as an ancestor or not. Mallorie Vaudoise speaks about some other type of ancestors, for example, saints. I don't feel like saints are ancestors. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the future I will see them as ancestors. But she speaks about saints, spirit guides. I don't think spirit guides are ancestors either, and that's because I have a specific beliefs about my afterlife. I don't think guides are ancestors, they're just guides. She also speaks about land spirits. Like, for example, if you're living a specific... Let me explain you something. Just because we're here today, it doesn't mean that the peaceful land where we live is necessarily the peaceful land 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Like, for example, over here, I live in Virginia, right? And the part that I live in Virginia is very close to battlefields from Civil War. A lot of blood was shed in this land. And there's a lot of very holy places around where I live and battlefields. So just because this land is so peaceful right now does not mean that it was peaceful all the time. So the land has spirits, and maybe those spirits could become some of your ancestors. It's up to you if you want to see it that way. It is always a good idea for you to go outside where you live, no matter what you live, which is, and honor any spirits that still linger, because a lot of things has happened in the in the ground that you step on. So always think about that. Just because it's very peaceful right now in a specific way right now does not mean that that's the way it has been always. So think about that as well. Mallorie Vaudoise also speak in her book about house spirits, which is pretty much land spirits. And she also speaks about things that were not human. They were never took human form, that they could be our ancestors. I have a little bit of difficulties understanding what she's trying to say with that. She said we evolve out of animals, out of plants, out of fungi and whatnot. So she said that plants could also be ancestors. If you feel like plants could be ancestors to you, by all means. Again, I really love this book, but there's a few things that they don't resonate with me. It's not that I'm against it. They just don't resonate with me. They may resonate with you because maybe you see nature a little bit different from me, but based on my afterlife view, there's certain things that I already have very clear in my head. For me, they feel comfortable in my mind and in my heart, so that's what I believe. Maybe this book will resonate with you and you will find this very refreshing and very empowering. So I really like it. I think regardless, I think this is a book that you should buy as well. Now let's talk about the last ones. And she also talks about ghosts. In any way, shape, or form, I think ghosts are my ancestors. You have to be somewhat elevated and evolve in order to be an ancestor. A ghost is a ghost. My recently dead, I see them as spirits. And if they're a little bit troubled, then I see them as ghosts. Now, you have to be very careful with ghosts. Ghosts, to my understanding, which is okay, everything I'm telling you here today is my understanding. So I just want to share this with you. It's my understanding that ghosts are souls that are still lingering around because they have unfinished business. Either they love their bodies so much and they didn't want to part from their bodies. This could be mothers that died young and they still don't want to leave their kids behind. Or this could be just troubled souls that just don't want to detach themselves from this realm. So do not want to empower ghosts by giving them food, offerings, and so on and so forth. You want to give them a lot of light. That's what you want to do with these ghosts that are troublesome. Now, ghosts to me are definitely in any way, shape, or form the same as my dead. My dead is people that I live with, that I met, that I shared times, experiences, family members that recently died, or maybe some years ago, or maybe even 20, 30, 40 years ago. Those are my dead. Some of them are very close to my ancestors. For example, my grandma, I see as my dead. But her father, my great-grandfather, I see him as my ancestor. Therefore, I have them together in my little altar for my ancestors and my dead. They usually share the same altar. And I'll tell you this right now, which is I don't honor everybody because I can't know all my ancestors. So I honor all my native blood, I honor my black blood, and I honor my Spaniard blood. Okay, so that's how I honor my ancestry. I'm gonna have good and I'm gonna have bad. In this book right here, and also Patti Wigington in her Badass Ancestor books, both books have incense for your ancestors. They have how to elevate problematic ghost. Okay, how to help him move on. I think that's really cool. You have how to call upon your ancestors. I mean, there's really good little rituals and things that you can do, recipes and stuff like that in both books. So if this is something that really calling up on you, I strongly suggest that you get these two books and you start right there. And also watch my friend Sancista Brujo Luis video and see what he has to say, because he has a mouthful when it comes to ancestry. And take from me what makes you feel happy, what makes sense, and what it doesn't make sense, then don't take from me. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the other side. All these people that wrote this book, they've never been in the other side for them to say, oh yeah, I went over there, I talked to the ancestors, this is what it is. So this is all based on experiences of each author. And this is what I'm saying right here is based on my own experiences. So you need to create your own experiences. Go out there, explore what you have, the information that you have. Do not feel guilty because you have bad ancestry, because guess what? We all have bad ancestry, which is all of us. But at the same time, we also have good. And we need to reconcile, right? The blood that we have within us, we have to reconcile the fights, the war. I mean, through my veins is a running war. And I need to reconcile it. And how do I do that? I do that by what I do, my actions that I do every day towards my fellow humans. I want to live good because I want to die good. I'm going to show you, I'm going to take you now and I'm going to show you my little altar where I have some of my things for my ancestors and my dead. Okay, witches, so this is my ancestors and my dead altar. I keep some things that are symbolic to me and to them. Obviously, I keep just battery operated candles, pictures of my dead. I also have representation of death with the skull. I found the skull very beautiful. And also I have like a memory box, like an honoring box in here with some of my great grandfather, which I consider my ancestor. So there are some of his writings in there. He used to write and he used to study medicine. So I have some of his pencils, his reading glasses, some syringe. I have his pocket watch and some pictures and things that I have from him. And this is my little corner where I can, you know, identify with my own blood, identify with my lineage. And over here, I like to honor my dead as well. I always keep a glass with water. I have a sun clock representing how short and fast life really is. But in reality, time for me is very different from my dead and my deceased and my ancestors. So this is my little corner. By Samhain, it gets really, really, really busy. Right now, it's just a regular Monday. What I do on Mondays is I will put incense. That is something that I always do. And sometimes I do put just regular candles because my office is really close to my witch room, so I can actually watch it. But for sure, every Monday, I change the water. This Monday, I did not get flowers, but I usually also get flowers. And I really take care of them. Sometimes I put these waters in at the little altar that I have over here. One of my grandfathers used to love Florida water. This was his perfume. Another of my grandma used to love this. I still like it myself. And my other grandma used to love Alcolado. So did my dad. I don't have my dad here right now. He's usually here as well. I just don't have him here right now. Because these are pictures and my father was he was a known person because he was a minister, so I don't want to have him in here. And some other dads that are more recent and that a lot of people that I knows, and so I don't want to put them there right now. But that's it, which is very simple. That's all you have to do. Just a little corner for you to feel connected, right? Have that connection, everyday connection with your dead, with your ancestors. Always communicating, always being part, always being remembered, always being honored, always being acknowledged. It's very important. It's just as simple as this. That's it, witches. I really hope this video was helpful. I really hope that after seeing this video, you feel comfortable working with your ancestors and you realize that it's not as complicated as we may feel this is. And this open a little door and ignite a little spark for you to explore and do your own research and find where is your happy place when it comes to honoring ancestors. And the bottom line is, which is that if you don't want to work with ancestors, then you just don't do it. You don't have to do it. You're not going to be a bad witch or you're not going to be a less witch if you don't do ancestors. There's actually a lot of witches that do not work with ancestors. Like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. I just hope you find a happy place and a comfortable place for you to continue your research and your exploration on ancestry, veneration, and honoring. Thank you so very much for being here today. Please make sure to subscribe. This video was something that helped you out a little bit. Thank you so much for everybody that's been going to my website, WhiteRaven and witcheslair.com. Remember, you can visit me on my social platforms. I am in Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And you can email me if you have any questions at layerofthewitch@yahoo.com. These are question witches. I do not work for people and I do not do consultations. All right? Witches, you must be very smart. The more you know, and this is something I tell you all the time, every Monday, the more you know, the more power you have. Knowledge is power. But with that knowledge, you must stay so very wicked. Bye.